Hello everybody, welcome to my channel.
Dickie Moore was an American actor and later a successful businessman and author, best remembered as one of Hollywood's most beloved child stars during the 1930s and 1940s. Born John Richard Moore, Jr. on September 12, 1925, in Los Angeles, California, he began his career in show business at an age when most children were still learning to walk. His natural charm, expressive eyes, and ability to convey emotion made him one of the most recognizable faces of early American cinema. Early career and rise to fame. Dickie Moore entered films at just 11 months old, appearing in silent pictures before he could even talk. He quickly became a staple of early Hollywood, featured in some of the most popular productions of the 1930s. One of his earliest notable appearances was in the Our Gang, Little Rascals comedy series, where he joined in 1932. Though his time in the gang was brief, it left a lasting impression on audiences and helped solidify his place as one of the most endearing child actors of his time. Moore also appeared in major films alongside Hollywood legends. He worked with Marlene Dietrich in Blonde Venus, 1932, where he played her son, and with Barbara Stanwyck in So Big, 1932. His ability to hold his own alongside such seasoned performers drew critical acclaim. In Oliver Twist, 1933, he portrayed the title role with a sincerity that captured both the hardship and innocence of Dickens's character. Teen years and mature roles. As Moore grew older, he faced the same challenge that many child stars encounter, the difficult transition into adult roles. Yet he managed to navigate this period with dignity and persistence. He appeared in films such as Sergeant York, 1941, starring Gary Cooper, and In Heaven Can Wait, 1943, directed by Ernst Lubitsch. He also served in the U.S. Army during World War II, which marked a turning point in his personal and professional life. After the war, Moore's acting career gradually slowed. His final screen appearances were in the late 1950s, including a few television roles. Rather than fading from public view, however, he reinvented himself. Later career and life beyond Hollywood. In the 1960s, Dickie Moore founded Dick Moore and Associates, a public relations firm in New York City that became highly successful. His intelligence, eloquence, and deep understanding of human nature made him a respected figure in corporate communications. He also became an author and historian of Hollywood's golden era, writing with insight about the experience of growing up in the spotlight. His book, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, But Don't Have Sex or Take the Car, 1984, was both a memoir and a poignant exploration of the child star experience. In it, Moore interviewed many former child actors, including Shirley Temple, Jackie Cooper, and Jane Withers, offering a reflective and often sobering look at the pressures of fame in childhood and the lifelong effects it leaves behind. Personal life and legacy. In 1988, Dickie Moore married Jane Powell, another iconic Hollywood performer, known for her roles in classic MGM musicals. Their marriage was long-lasting and loving, symbolizing a late-in-life happiness that contrasted with the turbulence many former child stars endured. Dickie Moore passed away on September 7, 2015, just shy of his 90th birthday. Though his fame as a child actor might have faded with time, his influence on early Hollywood and his later contributions to understanding the psychological impact of child stardom endure. Legacy. Moore's story stands as a testament to resilience, reinvention, and wisdom. From the silent era to modern times, he remained a bridge between Hollywood's earliest days and its evolving identity. His work, both on and off the screen, reflects not only the innocence of a bygone era but also the courage of an artist who grew up under the glare of the camera and emerged with grace, perspective, and compassion. In his later years, Dickie Moore became something of an elder statesman of classic Hollywood, a thoughtful voice who reflected with honesty and empathy on what it meant to grow up in front of the camera. Having lived through the transition from silent cinema to talkies, the golden age of the studio system, and into the modern era, he possessed a rare, first-hand perspective on nearly a century of entertainment history. Reflections on child stardom. Moore's experiences as a child actor were both a blessing and a burden. In interviews and in his book Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, But Don't Have Sex or Take the Car, he wrote candidly about the emotional toll that fame could take on children. He discussed how young actors were expected to behave like adults on set, but were often treated as commodities rather than people. He recalled, for example, how he was taught to cry on cue, by being told that if he didn't cry, his dog would be taken away. Such stories exposed the manipulative practices behind the glamour of early Hollywood and opened important conversations about the ethics of working with child performers. Still, Moore did not dwell on bitterness. He was proud of the friendships he formed and of the discipline the film industry taught him. He maintained a balanced perspective, recognizing both the damage and the development that came with his early fame. His compassion for other former child actors led him to organize gatherings where they could share their experiences and support one another, long before such peer networks became common. Intellectual and creative pursuits. In addition to running his public relations firm, Dickie Moore was also a gifted writer and thinker. His articles and essays often explored identity, communication, and human behavior. He spoke about how his time in Hollywood helped him understand the art of performance, not just in acting but in everyday life. "Everyone performs," he once said. "Some on screen, some in business, some in love. The key is to know when to stop acting and start living." He taught courses on communication and media relations, mentored young professionals, and occasionally appeared in documentaries about Hollywood history. Even decades after leaving acting, he remained deeply connected to the film community, respected by historians, archivists, and fans who recognized his integrity and insight. Marriage to Jane Powell. Dickie Moore's marriage to Jane Powell was one of the most admired late-life love stories in Hollywood. The two met in the early 1980s while working on a public event in New York. Powell, a star of MGM musicals like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, had also lived through the challenges of child fame. Their shared understanding created a profound emotional bond. They married in 1988, and their relationship was filled with humor, mutual respect, and intellectual connection. Powell once said that Dickie wasn't just kind, he was wise. They made their home in Manhattan, living quietly but contentedly, occasionally attending film festivals or retrospectives celebrating classic cinema. Final years and lasting impact even into his later years. Dickie Moore remained active in film preservation circles and was often invited to speak at retrospectives and film history conferences. He remained humble about his achievements, often referring to himself as a kid who got lucky and grew up before the cameras stopped rolling. His death in 2015 marked the end of an era, the passing of one of the last actors to have bridged the silent and sound eras of Hollywood. For film historians, Moore's life serves as a time capsule of cinematic evolution, and his reflections help bring compassion and humanity to discussions about the pressures faced by young performers. Legacy in film history today. Dickie Moore's name is spoken with reverence among classic film enthusiasts. His performances in Blonde Venus, Oliver Twist, and Sergeant York continue to be studied for their authenticity and emotional depth. But his most enduring contribution lies not in any single performance, but in his advocacy for the well-being of those who followed in his footsteps. By turning his personal story into a platform for awareness and empathy, He transformed a childhood of fame into a lifetime of wisdom. Dickie Moore's life reminds us that behind every bright Hollywood smile, there is a human being learning to balance dreams, expectations, and reality, and that true success lies not in fame, but in the grace with which one grows beyond it. Filmography and career highlights. Over the course of his long career, Dickie Moore appeared in more than 100 films, working with some of the most distinguished directors and stars of Hollywood's formative decades. His performances were marked by natural emotion, quiet intelligence, and an uncommon sensitivity for a child actor. Silent and early sound era. Moore's earliest film appearances date back to 1927, when he was not even 2 years old. He appeared in silent comedies and melodramas, quickly becoming a favorite for directors who needed a child capable of showing real feeling rather than theatrical exaggeration. By the time sound arrived, he was already a seasoned professional. In 1932, at just 7 years old, he starred opposite Marlene Dietrich in Blonde Venus, directed by Joseph von Sternberg. Moore played Johnny, the son of Dietrich's character, a role that required a delicate balance of innocence and emotional maturity. The scenes between Dietrich and Moore are still praised for their tenderness. They humanized Dietrich's glamorous persona and gave the film its emotional heart. That same year, he also appeared in So Big, with Barbara Stanwyck, based on Edna Ferber's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. Moore's ability to hold his own in dramatic scenes with Stanwyck earned him strong notices from critics who described him as instinctively truthful and utterly unaffected. Our Gang. Years. Moore's brief stint with the Our Gang, also known as the Little Rascals comedies, came in 1932-1933. He replaced Jackie Cooper as one of the group's leading boys and quickly became one of the most recognizable faces in the series. His big expressive eyes and quiet dignity set him apart from the more rambunctious characters. Although his time with the gang was short, it was long enough to make him a household name. Leading roles in the 1930s. Perhaps his most celebrated early performance came in Oliver Twist, 1933, in which he played the title role under director William J. Cowan. Critics praised Moore's ability to convey both the suffering and the unbroken spirit of Dickens's orphaned hero. It was a demanding role for a child, filled with pathos and restraint, and it showed that Moore possessed the depth and discipline of an adult performer. He went on to appear in Miss Annie Rooney, 1942, opposite Shirley Temple, who by then was America's biggest child star. Interestingly, Moore has the distinction of giving Shirley Temple her first on-screen kiss, a fact that both stars would later laugh about in interviews. Adolescence and wartime roles. As he matured, Moore took on more supporting roles in prestige productions. In Sergeant York, 1941, he played George York, the younger brother of Gary Cooper's title character, in a film that won Cooper an Academy Award. Moore's portrayal was modest but memorable, representing the innocence and patriotism of American youth during wartime. In Heaven Can Wait, 1943, directed by Ernst Lubitsch, Moore played Don Amici's younger self in the film's early scenes. Lubitsch's trademark elegance and wit gave Moore a chance to show his versatility in a more comedic and sophisticated setting. Transition out of acting. By the late 1940s, Moore's film work began to slow as he pursued education and later service in the U.S. Army during World War II. He took on occasional roles into the 1950s, including in 8 Iron Men, 1952, and a few television appearances, but he was increasingly drawn to writing, communication, and public relations. Later.
Bye bye, thanks for watching, bye.